So number 7 is Suggestopedia. When we say Suggestopedia, he believes that the human brain can process great quantities of materials if given the right condition for learning by Georgi Lazanov, and he also the developer of the Suggestopedia. So when we say that he believes that the human brain can process great quantities of materials if given the right condition of learning, is to naniniwala siya na yung utak ng tao is makaprocess ng a lot of techniques and several learning techniques kung ito ay binibigyan ng tamang kondisyon, at saka dapat yung environment is kaaya-aya for student, so that they can absorb the large amount of information. And the courses are given to small groups. So ito ay tinataguyod na mas malapit or interaktibong kapaligiran sa pag-aaral na nagbibigay daan para sa personal na atensyon at active participation of the student. And the intensive classes this provide a focus and concentrated learning experience, so allowing the student to delve deeply into the materials within a short time frame or maikling panahon. Then there is 3 parts of Suggestopedia. And the first, review; second, the presentation of new materials; and third, the active passive science. So when we say review is to reinforce or patibayin pa yung mga stock knowledge or the prior knowledge para to create a foundation or new materials or techniques. And the presentation of new materials, it is the present of information in clear, engaging manner or pamamaraan. And active passive science, this is a station that this balance periods of active engagement with periods of reflection and absorption, na tumutulong sa mga student na maunawaan ang impormasyon sa iba't ibang paraan. And the 3 elements is, first is the interactive classroom and pleasant classroom atmosphere. Dapat yung environment or classroom, the student feel comfortable and safety, or they are secure to that given environment. And the next is a teacher with a dynamic personality. When we say that, we all know that the teacher is flexible. So the teacher is energetic, and also the teacher motivates their student. And the third is a state of relaxed alertness in the student. So when we say state relaxed, is encourage student to present and attentive without feeling pressure and anxious. And name as such because student becomes suggestible, encouraged to be childlike. We all know that the student always asking questions and they are open to new ideas and they are questionable. So we can say that they are suggestible because they are conscious and always asking questions. And each member of the class is given a new materials and role to play to overcome inhibition. As a student, they are creative, then they feel comfortable if they are given a new identities or rules, so they are express themselves and explore a new concept. And number 8, communicative language teaching is aimed for students to acquire proficiency through pragmatic uses of the target language and aim to make communicative competence the goal of language teachings. So the primary aim is for student is to acquire the skills needed to communicate effectively in the target language. And the 5 features of the communicative language teaching is the emphasis on learning to communicate through interaction in the target language. So the emphasis the emphasis on learning interaction is essential of communicative learning. Communicative language teaching encourages students to interact with each other in the target language, creating a more natural and engaging learning experience. And the second is the introduction of authentic text into the learning situations. So, um, learning introductions of authentic materials, so real world materials like new articles, songs, or conversation are used to make learning more relevant and engaging. The provision of opportunities for learners to focus on the language and on the process is to students learn how to use language for different purpose, like asking questions, problem solving, or given expressing opinions, or given a instruction. Then enhancement of the learner's own personal experience attempt to link classroom language learning to real world situations. So the classroom experience is connected to the real world situation, helping the student on how to on how the student use the language in everyday life. And students need knowledge of linguistic form, meaning, and function. So in classroom, student student need knowledge of linguistic form, meaning, and function. So the student kinakailangan nilang malaman yung meaning or ng function na ginagamit nilang mga words, or on how sila to communicate others. So in the last is the teachers facilitates communication in the classroom. So we all know that the teacher is a flexible. So teacher is a facilitator to in communication. So the teacher must provide support and guidance while the student to take a lead. And there are three features of communicative activities. First is information gap. When we say information gap, this is the designed to create more communications, a student to share information, problem solving, and complete the task. And the choice, when we say choice, the student have an opportunity to make choices about how they can communicate, leading to more personalized and meaningful learning. And the feedback, students also receive a feedback on their communications, helping to improve their skills over time. So they all know kung meron pa ba silang kailangan i-practice, or meron pa ba silang idagdag so that they can communicate effectively. And the last is the related principles. So first, the learner-centered student learner-centered teaching, so that only the student is the center of the learners is the center of the learning process. So next, the is cooperative learning. We can see it in the teachers and student to student, that they can encourage the student work together and to achieve a common goals. So the interactive learning, when we say interactive learning, it is focused on active participation and engagement. And the whole language education, when you say that it is the globalized language education. So it recognizes the importance of learning language in a globalized world. And the last is task-based learning. So if as learner-centered teaching is the student is centered, and the task-based learning is the learning could base and task. It emphasizes the real-world tasks and activities, means of learning.
Okay, so this time we will discuss the silent way. Okay, so silent way was created by Caleb Gotegno. So capitalized and discovery learning. So silent way, it is a methodology of teaching language based on the ideas where the teacher should be as silent as possible during the class. But learners should be encouraged to speak as much as possible. So in other words, the students are in charge, whereas the teachers are there to guide. So assumes that learning is facilitated by accompanying physical objects. So for example, in math subject, di ba gumagamit yung mga teachers ng mga physical objects or manipulatives so that the students can easily understand the topic that is being discussed. So, ganun din po siya in teaching language. They use physical objects just like Cousinet rods and color-coded pronunciation charts. So this chart will help students to learn as they are able to remember and create memorable images to help them recall back what they have learned, as the objects are mainly physical items, which requires them to use their physical senses. So the students become independent by relying on themselves. So the students are aware that they have to depend on themselves and their own understanding, for they will discover that they can use their knowledge, so they can use the knowledge of their own native language to open up some new things in new language. So the teacher provides minimal corrective feedback. Attention is on structures of the language, pronunciation, and vocabulary, and uses students' error for improvement. So the question is, why we use silent way? Okay, so we use silent way to get the students to have a better pronunciation or uttering words fluently, which could lead them to have a better pronunciation in speaking the targeted language. So that is silent way. So now let us proceed to the next topic, which is the community language learning, or the CLL. So community learning language was developed by Charles Curran. So yung proponent po ng CLL is si Charles Curran. So whole person learning. So what does it mean by whole person learning? So whole person learning means that teachers consider not only their students' intellect, but also they have some understanding of the relationship among students' feelings, physical reactions, and desire to learn. So hindi lang po siya, so itong community language learning is hindi lang po siya nakafocus kung ano yung dapat ma-learn ng students inside the class, but also kinoconsider din nila yung mga emotions and yung feelings ng students towards his peers or within his community. So students have a conversation in their native language, and teacher helps them by giving them target language translation in tracks.
Content-based instruction. Content learning is integrated in language learning. So halimbawa sa klase sa science, natututo ang mga estudyante ng mga bagong terminologies habang pinag-uusapan ang konsepto ng ecology. So habang natututo sila ng mga bagong salita, unti-unti din nilang nauunawaan ang konsepto ng science. The teacher need to set clear objectives. Dapat alam ng guro kung ano ang nais niyang ituro tungkol sa paksa upang mas maging epektibo ang kanyang pagtuturo. Scaffold the language needed for study of the content. Yung guro ang nagbibigay ng tulong or gabay sa kanyang mga mag-aaral upang mas maunawaan pa ang kanilang mga aralin. Understand authentic text. So dito, yung mga mag-aaral ay inaasang makapagbabasa or makaintindi ng mga materials tulad ng mga balita or mga articles. Use of realias and lots of example. So dito, ito yung pagpapakita ng mga totoong bagay or mga larawan tulad ng mga globo or pagpapakita ng larawan ng mga hayop. Task-based language teaching. A set of communicative tasks. So dito, halimbawa nito, yung guro ay nagbibigay ng mga role play or debate upang mas ma-enhance yung kasanayan sa pagsasalita ng kanilang mag-aaral. Provides clear outcomes, relevant, and meaningful. So dito, alam ng mga mag-aaral kung ano ang nais nilang matutunan or magawa pagkatapos ng mga gawain. The teacher chooses the task. So, yung guro talaga yung pumipili kung ano ang mga gawain na dapat na ipagawa niya sa kanyang mga mag-aaral. students' needs and differences are considered. So binibigyan ng pansin ng guro yung antas ng pagkatuto or kaalaman ng kanyang mga mag-aaral. The teacher monitors students' performance and intervenes when necessary. So yung guro ay minomonitor niya talaga yung performance ng kanyang mga mag-aaral at tinutulungan niya ito kapag yung kanyang mag-aaral ay nahihirapan upang masigurado na tama ang ginagawa nila.